preface in Marissa's edition of Shepherding a Child's Heart is the introduction in mine, but they are mostly the same. One thing that really jumps out at me when I'm reading this introduction is the use of the term culture as a boogeyman. On the first page alone, there are statements like, our culture has lost its way with respect to parenting. There are several problems that have converged at this moment in our culture. This is a self-absorbed culture. Our culture has convinced children that they don't need to respect their parents, things like that. Here's an example. It is no longer culturally acceptable for dad to be the boss at home. Mom doesn't obediently do what dad says, or at least pretend she does. So I think it's important to look back at this historical moment, as we're almost 30 years away from its original publication in 1995. We hear culture war rhetoric all the time. This is not changed, but I think it is easy for modern readers to lose sight of just how central culture war and moral panic were in the moment and in the evangelical imagination in the 90s. In fact, I pulled up the March 1995 issue of Christianity Today, so same year Shepherding a Child's Heart was published, and the cover story is about culture war rhetoric. The title of the story is Culture War Casualties, subtitle How Warfare Rhetoric is Hurting the Work of the Church. It's by John Woodbridge. And the author specifically calls out particular figures like James Dobson, who were evangelical leaders who used culture war rhetoric to stoke fears. 5 years earlier, James Dobson had co-authored a book called Children at Risk, published in 1990. And it's really a book about how the world around us is a danger and a threat to children, and how Christian parents are in a battle for the souls of their children. And so the moral panic and the culture war posture of many evangelical leaders during this moment is still part of a reaction to the cultural changes and upheaval of the 60s and 70s. If you want to read more about that, Kristen Dumais outlines that in great detail in the book Jesus and John Wayne. But the moral panics and culture war of the 1990s are really central in understanding the world in which Shepherding a Child's Heart emerged. And so if you read the introduction to Shepherding a Child's Heart with an eye toward this historical moment, it makes a lot more sense, and you see it a little bit more clearly as the reactionary book that it is. And many Christian parenting books are reactionary. They are trying to offer a countercultural option, a separate option, a different option, an alternative to what the culture is offering parents. And the appeal and success of particular books has to do with the author's ability to capitalize on that.